It was Texas, it was Tennessee. It was what I had coming to me. You were unlike anything before. Welcome in, folks. My name's Steve. To my upper left, I think, is Soul Gravy. And tonight we are thrilled to have Dustin Schaefer, solo artist also lead guitarist of Shane Smith and the Saints. So, Dustin, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Our pleasure. Uh, if you don't mind, maybe just taking a couple minutes and giving us a little bit of your backstory, and then we'll get into maybe a few other questions.
Yeah, sure thing. I'm from a little town in South Texas called Victoria. It's kind of down by Corpus Christi. Started playing music, pretty much my whole life. It ran in the family. Family picking circles, and that led to teenage bands and high school bands and college bands. And I went to school and didn't take it too seriously, just kind of thought it was a hobby. I ended up kind of randomly getting uh an audition for Mickey and the Motor Cars, the Austin band, the Braun Brothers band.
Yep.
Younger Braun Brothers. That was random. I was just on my computer one day and my buddy sent me a message like, hey, you should go try out for this band. So I did, and I got the gig. That was about a year, not even a year after I graduated college. Um, and started doing that. I was with Mickey for 5 years. Towards the end of that tenure, I started writing my own music and kind of wanted to move to Nashville, do that whole thing. I ended up moving to Nashville in 2016, lived there for 3 years, did a little bit of the solo thing, ended up touring with the Knoxville-based band, the Black Lilies.
Yep.
I found out pretty quickly that Tennessee wasn't for me. I moved back to Texas in 2019. I kind of floated around a little bit, did some fill-in stuff here and there. And then I was out actually filling in for Reckless Kelly when a buddy of mine messaged me about the Shane Smith and the Saints gig. And I wasn't really looking for a gig at that point. I was kind of like still thinking I was going to do the solo thing. And Shane and I met, and it seemed like a good fit. And I've been with them ever since, and still trying to crank out as much of my own music as I can and play shows, in the cracks between the schedule. So that's where we're at
Nice.
in 2024.
Well, that's impressive. This is one of the things that we like to do is I like to try to educate Soul Gravy on folks that are from your hometown. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna do that here real quick. Bailey Zappi. Do you know who that is, Soul Gravy?
Where did you say he's from? I'm sorry.
Victoria,
Victoria.
Texas.
Okay, okay. Who did you say?
Bailey Zappi.
I know
I'll
the
give you.
name.
Yeah, he's a
Know the name.
quarterback for the Patriots.
Okay,
Pretty cool.
that's why I know the name. All right.
Cowboy Troy. Do you know of Cowboy
Okay,
Troy?
familiar with his work?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Very good.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Dang.
it's helpful.
Good to know.
So a few MLB players, and I just grabbed a couple of them, but we've got Ron Gant.
Oh,
Being
yeah.
a,
My dad
being
went to high
Okay.
school with Ron Gant.
oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know how old your dad is now. Um, so
Sorry,
Ron
Dad.
Gant played with, I think, most of his career with Atlanta, but also played
Yeah.
with the
That's what I was
Cardinals.
thinking.
Yeah, for sure. I knew
I was
you'd
thinking
know
of
that.
Brave for some reason. So,
And then if you've listened to many Cardinals games, you will also know that Doug Drabeck,
Yeah.
Pirates, and his
Doug
son.
Drabeck went to our church when I was a kid.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
cool. His son Kyle's in the league now as well. I think also might be pitching for Pittsburgh as well, which is kind of wild. Father son doing that. And then two more. I had to go pretty deep on this one. Her name is Hope Dorisic. I think I got that wrong, but it's probably okay. She was the 2010 Playmate of the Year. Shout out. And
okay.
then
Okay.
Stone Cold Steve Austin is from close
Yeah, dude.
by, or yeah. So a pretty impressive list.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. He's actually technically from a little town called Edna, which is like right next door, but it's tiny, tiny.
Close.
So they're
We can
like
claim
kind of
him.
close enough, close enough. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the Buda to Austin, or or I guess like y'all are
Yeah,
familiar
that
with
makes
this
sense.
area, kind of
Yep.
same thing.
I am. Yep. Yeah, very cool. Well, we're always kind of fascinated by the folks that we learn about, but I think maybe I want to talk a little bit about your solo career, and
Sure.
this is the weirdest question that I'll ask tonight. The rest of them are relatively normal, but I'm going to give you a pie. It's called the pie question, and I want you to
All right.
divide. I want you to divide up this into 4 sections. So you have songwriting, recording, performing, and then the music business, everything that goes into running your own business.
Okay.
And so I'm curious where you naturally kind of gravitate towards any of those 4 sections, or
Well, I'll tell you which one I don't. It's probably the business side of it. You know, it's funny. I've never really kind of thought about it. I would say for sure performing. Um, I've been a live performer longer than I've been a songwriter. I've been playing shows in front of people since I was 14. So that's always been kind of like my bread and butter, I guess. Funny you asked me about recording. I just recently, within the last like 2 weeks, have spent entirely too much money on a bunch of
yeah,
recording gear. So that's a rabbit hole that I'm literally in right now, and that's a whole other world, which I've always been into. I just haven't really been able to go there myself. I've always had to like hire people to go to
right,
their studio or whatever. Um, and then the songwriting thing is something that's come to me later in life. I've always kind of thought more melodically and rhythmically, like, more about like the musical arrangement of things than necessarily lyrics.
right,
Um, like you could be singing me a nursery rhyme. If it's over a cool arrangement and a cool groove and a nice melody, like I'm gonna jam it. That's kind of been, it's sort of the poetic side of songwriting is more of a newer thing. I would say performance for sure is probably my number one.
yep,
Recording is fun too because that's like a different. So I would say performing, recording. Um, what was the one we just talked about before that?
uh, so writing and then the business.
Songwriting, yeah.
Yep,
Performing, recording,
yep.
writing, business is way down here.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, um, I guess one of the perks of being in a band, and this might be taking a little bit of a leap, but I'm sure, at least with your current band, Shane probably had that piece largely covered. Does that be fair to say
Which
in
part?
terms of the business side?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Sol, your turn.
Well, I wanted to. The first thing that stood out to me when you started naming the bands was they're all totally different.
Yeah, very
Even
different.
even with Mickey and the Motor Cars compared to Shane Smith,
Oh yeah.
because when I think of Shane Smith, I think of the big airy uh, arena style almost guitar stuff.
Yeah.
Then compared to Mickey and the Motor Cars and then the Black Lilies also. But when you first started playing, what was the style of stuff that was coming out of the bedroom as a young Dustin? Because
Oh
with
man.
all those styles were so different. I'm curious where it started.
So I would say in the early days of like me just learning guitar
Yeah.
as like I got like a little acoustic guitar when I was 8. Um, I would say those years for between that and the time I was 12 when I got my first electric guitar, those first
Okay.
4 years were probably more like the Eagles and like some Stevie Ray Vaughan and Kenny Wayne Shepherd and kind of more the classic rock, like the stuff that my folks jammed and stuff like that. When I got my first electric guitar, I went super into like the metal from heavier stuff, kind of I learned a lot of Metallica, a lot of Megadeth, and then like even heavier stuff than that. Like I don't know if y'all know like the band like Unearth or
Yeah.
like metalcore, like actual metalcore,
Yeah,
and
a little
then
harder.
and then like also I learned a ton of solos, like hair metal solos, like
Okay.
Rat and Van Halen and Dokken and like all those bands. I spent a lot of like that was kind of like the Tab era when Tabs were coming out. I was learning hair metal solos, so
Sweet.
there's still like a lot of that in my playing. So that was kind of that phase. I think
Yeah.
once I started getting paid to play, which you know I got paid in college. Like I would leave a gig with like maybe $16, and
Right.
like a fat buzz. But I was still getting paid. That was kind of the era that I, leaned into a little more country music and just more like, with, for lack of a better term, just like not such an extreme. Like those are kind of extremes, like hair metal,
I
and
understand.
so like more just generalized, like a lot of Tom Petty and stuff like that. Just like people like stuff that a lot of people listen to
Right.
Right.
universally. Like John Mayer and stuff. Even though that's like bluesy pop, like stuff like that. Um,
Just stuff
and
that
I'm always
folks
just what's
know.
that?
Just stuff that people more widely know that you're
Yeah,
going to hear out in the
just
bars.
stuff that I mean. There's always something to be learned and something to be absorbed. So I feel like my taste has kind of like done this and sort of landed in kind of where it is now, somewhere in this like pop and rock and country Americana umbrella, and that's like kind of where I live today. So
Well, I couldn't find one of them from the Memphis show that I was telling him that me and my kiddos got to meet Shane and the band at a Memphis show, and I found the South Haven show, the South Haven, Mississippi show.
oh
So
yeah,
that was a Whiskey Myers
nice.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I can't
recognize the
find
bass player.
yeah. He's kind of hard not to recognize, huh?
Fair
Um,
enough.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so I just wanted to show you that. And then also, I have a Facebook friend that we are mutual friends with. You helped out with it's a pretty cool thing that you guys were involved in, but unfortunate circumstances over in the East, in the Carolinas and everything. But
Yeah.
you contributed to a thing. I'm trying to find the actual name of it. Goodness gracious, what is the name of it?
Oh
The Appalachian
man.
Flood Relief was a program
Yeah.
that was put on. It was basically set up to where artists contributed merch and just various things, and they auctioned it off. And and it was uh, very well done. I'm not going to name drop because they asked me not to, but it was very well done, and it was a great thing that these folks did. It was a group effort, but Dustin was one of the ones that contributed I believe it was lyrics to a song, right?
Yeah, it
Didn't
was a
you
lyric
write out
sheet.
something?
It was
Yeah,
a handwritten lyric sheet.
yeah,
Oh, very cool.
with some artwork and stuff on it. But either way, that thing that you were part of, I think they raised almost $40,000.
Man, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great thing. So,
Yeah.
um, and shout out to you and all the other folks there was a ton of people that contributed to that gave a little bit of time and some merch and things like that went a long way towards that big goal. So, just wanted
Yeah,
to
that means the world. Yeah.
point that
Yeah,
out.
well, man, happy to help. And that actually ended up being a cool thing for me because I ended up doing a little short handful of like those lyric sheets. I ended up like kind of following that up with selling them to like fans.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
it was a cool endeavor for me, but I was also stoked to help out because I did, like I said, when I played for the Black Lilies, they're based in Knoxville, right down the road, and I spent a lot of time out there. And we had a lot of friends in the Carolinas, and so I do have a little bit of investment personally in that area. So it was nice to, be a part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I mean, even now, it's hard not to want to help in some way, shape, or form. It's still going on these days, but either way. All right,
Well,
Talbot.
we got to play a show there. That was
Okay.
awesome. Yeah, it was the very last show of our tour, and people showed up. So they're obviously, as much as they can be trying to get back to normal life.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I feel like I should know the answer to this, but I don't. And if you can't share it, then Dustin, don't. But how'd you come about your nickname?
Man, there's really, I think it was Cody Braun. It was one of the Brauns. And this was after I started playing with Mickey. Like the Brauns are like big nickname guys, and I think Cody just like had like just recently watched the Remember the Titans, and I was like clean cut, surfer boy haircut, and that was just it just came out
It
and it
stuck.
stuck. And like
Yeah.
it's been my nickname ever since. So
Fair enough. All right. Well,
yeah.
I feel a little more included now. So thank
Yeah,
you for sharing
there's
that.
definitely worse ways of getting nicknames. So
Yeah,
And
yeah,
worse
yeah.
nicknames too.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
yeah, definitely.
Dustin, how did you know you wanted to, or maybe you alluded to this a little bit, but how did you know you wanted to, start getting into the solo world, doing your own stuff?
Man,
Out.
I think it was just an itch, like I've always been a super creative person, and I think honestly, like in the initial phases, I saw that as a vehicle for me to play guitar. Like that's kind of what I was saying. Like I come from the more the musical band arrangement side of things. Like I
Right.
kind of write songs almost backwards. Like I'll write that stuff first and then just like go back through lyric sheets or something and see if anything fits rather than try to tailor a musical arrangement around lyrics. So um, it's just, yeah, I think it was just in there and it needed to come out. And yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What are some of the? I mean, I know that. Well, I don't know this, but I would assume that the demands. The band is obviously has been doing great, and it's been super fun
Yeah.
to watch y'all kind of take that ride or whatever. But what are some of the challenges of trying to manage that solo thing while you have the
Uh,
band commitments that are obviously pretty significant?
yeah. I think, I'm trying to think the best way to sort of paraphrase what you're getting at.
Yeah.
The nice thing about it is like leading a band, and props to Shane for doing this. Like leading a band is stressful. You got to
Super high.
manage a bunch of personalities. You got to manage people's schedules and their own personal wants and needs. And um, organizing a show is hard. You got to think about your crowd and your set list, and you got to make sure. Like for me, since I don't have enough free time to have like a steady band, I have like a pool of different guys and gals on, you know, drums, bass, and guitar that I can call. It's like, hey, are you free? Are you free? Are you free? But we got to rehearse, and like we don't really have to rehearse with Shane Smith and the Saints. We play, like those songs are,
Right.
if there's a song that we haven't played in a year, we'll just like, hey, let's run this at sound check, and we're good to go. Like that's
It's
all it
nice.
takes. So, and then you got to like, our schedule is constantly changing, and so it's hard for me to book gigs too far in advance because like I don't know what Shane Smith and the Saints is going to do in 4 months, which is ideally you want to be looking probably that far ahead. Like for me, like I like to do local shows that make sense to me, and I like to do openers. Like I'll take a money loss doing an opener at a cool spot, getting in front of people because it makes sense. But that kind of stuff you got to sort of poach for way in advance, and we don't always know our schedule that far out. So
That makes it
that's
tough.
kind of the challenges. But I think especially now that I've invested in some recording equipment, if I don't have the option to go play and I have some time off and I didn't get to book a show, I'm going to record. So I'm either going to be creating music or performing music in some way, you know. So I
Yeah.
could just be where I'm like the guy that just puts out a ton of music on albums, and maybe I only do 20 shows a year, if that, you know. Like maybe that's how it is, which is cool, you know. If I can
Yeah.
build a following and do the shows that I want to do, like I'm okay with that, you know.
Yeah, at least you have options in this scenario.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could always open for Shane Smith and the Saints.
Eh, not always.
I'm just kidding.
I mean,
That's a hell of
We've
a
talked
task,
about
but
it. Like I've brought it up to Shane before, but it is kind of it can be a strange dynamic, you know.
I
Like
would understand.
I think the only scenarios where it would make sense is like maybe a hometown show,
Yeah.
and also or where I would actually draw some tickets, which, you know, most of the venues that we're playing, like I'm not drawing enough tickets to warrant an opening spot, so we'll go with other bands. um, or on like a festival slot where I would be
Oh yeah.
like a few bands before, or even like we did our Saints weekend in Stanley, Idaho, and I got to play like the Friday slot, and then the Saints played Saturday, which that was awesome. That was super fun. So
Yeah.
stuff like that works too, but you know, usually, and you know, for a good reason, try to keep that
Yeah. No,
separate. You
that
know, it
makes
would be
sense.
like a special occasion thing where maybe I would open, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
not
Makes
Yeah.
too
sense.
often. You know.
I'm curious what, if you can share this, maybe some of the things that you've learned from watching Shane run the band in terms of kind of helping you to understand, all right, you may have already known these things, but he probably maybe reinforced some of the more important pieces of managing a band.
The I would say I would run my band quite differently than Shane does.
Okay.
Yeah. But that, I mean, it's obviously you know, he's a great businessman and he's extremely hardworking. And I think Shane's biggest asset is like he is just the most stubborn, determined, like he's gonna get it
Super
done kind
driven.
of guy. And I think that would be my biggest, like his biggest strength and the biggest, you know, personal attribute that I would aspire to be more like, you know, just
Gotcha.
like determined and hardworking, you know, like that's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for anybody who's followed the band, you know, and kind of their journey, obviously his drive has been, you know, second to none.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I got to see him for, I can't tell you how many times I got to see him for $8. And,
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
I couldn't be happier for everybody that y'all aren't getting $8 a ticket anymore. So, but you know, at the end of the day, you don't get into that. Most people, I mean, there are exceptions, but most people don't get to that place unless you have gone out and gotten after it for a while. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I
super
mean, you
impressive.
know, it's I think most people don't realize how much of a long game it is. Like it's just I think 60% of the music business is just persistence and longevity. If you can just stick it out. Granted, like that's not always true, but like
Sure.
if you're talented enough and you make good decisions and you just grind and just say like I'm in this for life and I'm going to do it, I think like that yields success. Maybe not as fast. Like look at a guy like Chris Stapleton. That dude was grinding in Nashville forever. People think he's some breakout
Right.
new pop. Like no, he's not, dude. That guy spent years and
Nobody's ever heard of the
years
Steel
and
Drivers.
years. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So, you know, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
my take on it, you know.
Yeah. You're definitely the kind of the, I guess, like poster child, I guess, for that starting out so, you know, small and then a slow grind
The
and
slow
rise
burn.
where you are compared. I guess what stood out when you were talking about that is these days everyone talks about, for better or worse, all TikTok, Instagram, and everything else, everything happening so fast for certain, not everybody, but certain people.
Yeah.
Some that aren't ready for it, and things like
Yeah.
all those different. It's just a different world, and you're basically y'all's situation started out kind of before that world existed, and now you're kind of somewhat in that world as far as with the help of TV shows and social
Sure.
media and all those things have it just I don't know, it's kind of odd for especially you guys have benefited from both sides of that coin, I guess, compared
Yeah.
to folks before and current. So do you I guess as far as that part goes, that slow grind like that is if somebody was on TikTok or Instagram trying to get going, what would be some things that you would mention for them, and I guess some advice that you would even give yourself at this point, starting from
Yeah.
scratch.
Well, I would say, it's interesting. Like I've seen exactly what you're talking about, like in terms of somebody not being ready for it. Like especially some of these like young, excuse me, like young kids, these 18, 20-year-old kids get viral, and they don't have any music to play, or like they're not very good live because they haven't honed their craft, like
Right.
I haven't been there yet.
they haven't, like I've seen it. And that's what management companies and booking agents, they look at numbers, and like that stuff matters today. So like use the tools that you have to put yourself out there. As long as, like, my thing with the social media is I'm on my personal page, I'm only going to put out stuff that I feel good about putting out. Like I'm not necessarily like a trend follower, or I'm not going to like, well, we need to do like this and this and this because it's the algorithm does this, and like I'm not going to do that. Sorry.
Right.
And maybe that's going to hinder my success. That's fine, because to me it feels inauthentic. Um, I would rather make an okay living doing what I believe and what I feel than get rich and like look in the mirror and like not respect myself for, but whatever, like I would say, do put yourself out there however you feel comfortable putting yourself out there, and also hone your craft. Like, try to do the viral social media thing, but also be playing dive bars and getting better in front of people, and getting heckled, and know what that feels like, and like developing the thick skin, and you know
Playing
like
Freebird in Purple Rain and
yeah, like
Yeah.
you got to do it, or you don't do it and you get heckled. Like that's what
Right.
happens,
yeah,
No.
and you got to learn it.
yeah, definitely. Um, well, you want to play one about a halftime, Tabo?
Yeah, it is halftime.
All right.
Where I think we
Um,
were going to play Miserable. I don't know if you'd like to give
yeah,
us any details on it or anything that we
Man,
should.
I just think I haven't really been playing it a ton in my live set, and I had a show uh, the night before Thanksgiving in Victoria, my hometown, and my voice was completely shot, so I completely sucked. But at least I got to play a bunch of guitar. But I just feel like a lot of people were giving that song some love, and since I hadn't played it in a while and people were digging it, I wanted to kind of bust it back out.
Nice.
okay.
Cool.
All
Yeah.
right,
I'll,
cool.
I'll go silent so
All
you
right.
can get a good hear of it.
All right, then. All right, here we go. Here's Miserable.
Just as soon spend 100 nights alone, then one more night in the middle of one more fight
I dig.
Yeah.
I
was
dig it,
thinking
but
about,
I've heard it already before. But I still dig it.
yeah,
Well,
I was
thanks,
thinking about
man.
doing like a Stone Cold intro to that. Like a
Well, glass breaking.
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
but I didn't think I had the oomph
Oh,
to
dang.
get to go there, so I didn't attempt. But either way, sorry.
So, what did you? If there was a band from the late '80s, early '90s, musically, maybe not vocally, but anything that
I,
shook your memory
I
there?
was trying to what he was talking about playing early on, and then what that sound was. I was trying to piece that together, and I couldn't quite come up with because there's a couple different layers to that song. But yeah, I couldn't nail anything down.
I got a little Night
Okay,
Ranger from it. I don't
Night
know.
okay,
Ranger?
Yeah, a
Oh,
okay,
little Night Ranger.
nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Okay.
Anyway,
Have you
whatever.
ever seen the show Law and Order?
Yeah.
Those guitar tones are straight off of the Law and Order
Oh,
theme
very
song.
cool. All
Yeah,
right,
straight.
that's what I should have been looking for. My wife watches that all the time. I should know that. Yeah, very, very cool. And I think I want to tell a quick story because everybody here knows this person.
Okay.
So it's a story about our friend Patrick from Country
He
versus Metal.
he's in the chat, but on YouTube, by
Oh,
the way.
what's up, Patrick? Maybe I should let you hop in and tell the story. But this is pretty cool because this just shows what a good dude Dustin is. So I think it was the
I think I know where this is going.
yeah, I think it was the
Yeah.
second what I would call country show for Patrick. He'd seen
Yeah.
American Aquarium, and then I think you guys were shortly thereafter. And he was he was trying to figure out your pedal setup, and
Well,
I
he came
guess
up to me. I don't remember the town, but I remember the venue. Where does he live?
Delaware,
Okay.
Wilmington. So it might have been Philly or somewhere close to there.
Maybe I think it was in Philly.
Yeah,
I don't remember for sure. But I do remember the venue, and I do remember chatting him up. He thought like he was just so baffled by like our sound because he thought there was like a keyboard player, like some other
kept
like
looking for it.
ghost guy backstage, and it's just literally my reverb pedal. I just use a bunch of reverb, and I kind of set it to where it does this like swirly ambient thing, and it does take up a lot of space, but it's just one pedal. I mean, I say that combination of two pedals, but mostly one pedal.
Nice. Well, yeah, from what I understand in the lead guitarist world, it's some folks are a little protective of that information, and it's super cool that you took time to share that with them. And he told the way he told me the story is like, man, it was so cool because Dustin's like pulled out a Sweetwater and walked me through the chain and everything that I needed. Like
Yeah.
that's super cool of you to do, and it's
Well, I
super
think
cool.
it's like pretty weird to be like secretive about your gear because I don't know, you're always going to sound like you, and nobody else is going to sound like, I could play Eddie Van Halen's exact rig. Like Eddie Van Halen could play,
Right.
hand me his guitar without changing any settings, and I'm not going to sound like Eddie Van Halen, rest in peace. But
That's fair.
that's why it's like, oh, everybody's gear changes over the years, and like, there's no
Yeah.
secret,
No, it's cool. It's very cool. And then I think that might have, I don't know if it was the first time or second time that I saw you, but it might have been
That
the
was the
second time that he.
I think that was the first time that I like kind of actually chatted him up like in an extended kind of manner. We might have like said a few hays maybe the first time, but
Yeah.
that was the first time
Yeah.
we like kind of officially met, I think.
Well, and then the other cool piece was I think that was the night of your debut of on Yellowstone, which was
No, it would have been shortly after because I definitely remember. Wait, which one are we talking about? Are we talking about that might have
I,
been the one where we were in?
yes,
No, because
that was later.
Oh,
There was
man,
something
see,
going
I'm
on
trying
with
to remember all
Yellowstone
this
that
stuff.
night. So
Actually, it could have been because I know the first one when they like played our song, we were in Virginia Beach
yeah,
because we did a watch party before our show for that one. And then when we were actually
that
in
could
the
have been it. Yeah,
episode, they flew us out to Montana for a watch party. But I think that was maybe before it aired. So it could have been the night that it
gotcha.
aired. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Anyway,
Or like a day or two
but
after, maybe.
well, he is baffled by the fact that like people come out and talk to, I know that's a Texas thing where artists come out after the show and talk to people, but like
Yeah.
for somebody who's from Delaware, that's kind of a head scratcher. They're like, wait, they're going to come out and talk to us, like such a cool deal.
Yeah,
We take it
we
for
don't.
granted here, but
Yeah, we don't always do it, and I don't. I certainly don't always do it. It kind of just depends on the tour, and this last tour that we were
right.
on, I think we did 4 shows in a row, an international flight. We did 4 shows in 6 days in the UK, and then we flew back immediately, and then did 5 shows in a row. So like,
Yeah,
I wasn't necessarily going out in the crowd much on that tour, just because like we were just exhausted, but like most of the time, if we're feeling social, we'll just go hang out. There's nothing.
Well,
yeah,
that's
I don't
part of
know.
that slow grind part that,
Well, and I
yeah.
think it's fun. It's part of the fun for me, like going out and just
Yeah.
hanging out with people.
yeah,
It's
that's,
it's a great test market too, because you get to find out who your folks are, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You get to really actually meet them, which is pretty cool. I do have another question, and I feel like you're taunting me with the Fox shirt.
Oh,
One, I understand. So I've had a couple people tell me of that you're quite the. I don't know. I think this is accomplishment or a praise, but you're quite the gearhead.
yeah.
And if anybody needs like any kind of consult or help or whatever, that you're the go-to person. Is that correct?
Um, I, to an extent, I guess I went through like my heavy phase of gear nerd. So like I said, now I'm in like the recording gear nerd world.
You've moved on,
So
right?
like
Okay.
but like I kind of like went like yes. Short answer yes. But I've gone through that, and like I've got most of like the guitars that I need. I've got most of the amps that I need to do what, at that point, like I'm not like the guy that's going to go have like 4 different Fender Strats just because I want to have them. Like I've
Right.
got one Strat, and it's a badass Strat, and that's my Strat, and I don't really need to have any more. Like that's kind of where I'm at with gear. But I'm always down to like go down a rabbit hole with tone, and how to
Sure.
like get a certain sound, or how to twist the knobs, or like what happens when you put pedals in different orders, and like like always
Yeah,
that
you
stuff
dig that.
still is fun for me,
yeah.
Super cool.
for
And then the
sure.
the follow-up, which is kind of unrelated, but I know you spend a little bit of time with your dirt bike. So anything that you can share about that hobby?
It's expensive, and it's scary, and it's
Shocking.
dangerous.
Yeah.
No,
How
but
often do
honestly,
you?
it's one of my. I mean, when I was a kid, I had 3 major loves, like from like the ages of 4 to all through elementary school, and that was guitar, baseball, and dirt bikes.
Nice.
I played baseball at a very young age. I was a very late bloomer in high school, so like pro athletics didn't work out. Um,
It doesn't for anybody.
I played I I played guitar at a very young age, and that obviously panned out all right. And then I was always fascinated at dirt bikes, and never got to really. My cousins had a couple that we would like cruise around with, like on the deer lease and stuff, but I didn't get into dirt bikes until my 30s. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a tough hobby to pick up in
Sure.
your 30s. I have crashed, I have hurt myself, but it's one of the most fun things I think a human being could ever do.
Absolutely. How often do
So
you get a ride?
I try to go, if we're home, every Sunday. sometimes during the week. It just depends. But as much as I can, and as much as I can afford to, it's an expensive hobby, you know.
For sure. Did you, without doxing you, did you get your house close to somewhere where you could ride?
Well, thankfully, we're Central Texas is like within 2 hours of just a bunch of dirt bike tracks.
Nice.
Our drummer Zach, he's affiliated with a motocross track in Lockhart called Spokes, which is my favorite track in the area, and that's like 45 minutes from me. There's other places up north. There's a track down by San Antonio. You got Three Palms in Houston. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of
Yeah.
tracks around here.
That's good
So,
stuff.
yeah,
Cool.
it's nice.
All right. Well, you can take the shirt off now. So,
It was actually like the closest thing. Like, what I remember, we were like, "Yeah, I'll hop on at 7:55," and it was already like 7:57. I didn't have a shirt on, so I just grabbed this one.
You're good.
I was
You're
air
good.
drying it. It was from the previous session, so
Nice.
there we go.
The somebody else in our chat said that you wanted to point out that you spent some time or have played some gigs anyway with a friend of the podcast, the River Choir Boys.
Oh yeah, man, I love those dudes. Hometown pals for sure. Um, I've sat in with them a handful of times on some shows. I've definitely played on their albums and sang on their albums, and we have definitely partied together a bunch. And they've shared some cool bills with us. I think they were on our first Red Rocks headliner back in 2023. That was really fun. And they've played a bunch of shows with us, and love those dudes.
After meeting them a couple months ago at Jason Eady's festival, I definitely believe that about the boys for sure.
They're wild, man.
Yeah, they can hold up with anybody.
They can hang for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They also cooked a mean meal, by the way. They had to feed a whole bunch of people that weekend. So kudos to those guys for that.
There's some G's for sure. Shout out to my boys.
Yeah, they were real. That was my first time meeting them, but they were super cool. I was just wanted to throw that part in there. So
good dudes.
Talbot, you want to go ahead and get to some rapid fires?
Yes, let's hit some rapid fire because we're committed to getting you out of here on time. So these are just kind of bang questions, but some of them are easier than others, I think. So first one is today was the anniversary where everybody tells you your Spotify Wrapped. You know what songs are at the top of your list. So you may or may not have seen yours, but what songs would you maybe guess are at the top of your list, or what bands maybe or artists?
Number one song is probably a song called August by Flip Turn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Flip Turn. Impressive.
Yeah,
All right.
very, very cool band.
All right, nice. So this is more of an album thing, but we call it the Desert Island album. You got to pick one. What one are you going to take?
One, man.
No.
1984.
All right, there you go.
Van Halen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, that would change. Ask me again in 10 minutes. My answer would change.
Might change. All right.
Yeah.
I was in.
I was 3.
7th grade, 8th grade when that came out, and it like changed the world.
Did it come out in '84?
I think so.
Okay, well that would be strange if it didn't, but
it would be odd, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I listened to that album today, and like I still think that would be groundbreaking music if it came out like tomorrow. You know,
100%.
like that's to me very cool. You know,
Yep.
Make Yourself by Incubus. That would be another one that I could
All right, there you go.
swap.
Little Incubus, nice. Dinner with one historical figure,
Oh man,
dead or alive.
man, that's so hard. I mean, I would maybe Eddie. He's my favorite guitar player.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Does that count as a historical figure?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Definitely in our world it
Yeah.
does. So, this is more, I'm curious specifically just because I've been fortunate enough to see you play a handful of times, but I'm curious, what do you see when you play?
I see my pedals. I see my fretboard. I see people in the crowd doing weird, dumb things.
Yeah,
I
sure.
see, obviously, like funny little inside jokes with my bandmates on stage. Like goofy little things that we do to kind of entertain ourselves. Sometimes I'll just space out and look at like some lights on the ceiling or the room, or like, there's a place called Webster Hall in New York City that has a big disco ball in the middle. I just kind of stare at that for a little while,
Focus
or just
point.
like whatever. I try to, don't have to pay too much attention to what I'm actually doing, like playing wise, because we play those songs so much.
So many times, yeah.
I just kind of try to take in what's around me and enjoy it.
Cool. Good answer.
Yeah.
Ideal green room.
Oh, the Norva in Norfolk.
Okay.
It has a half-court basketball court. It has like pool table, like sauna, little gym setup,
Oh, wow.
showers, couches, arcade games. That is the best green room I've ever been in.
And how big is the venue? Rough guess.
Not super big. It's probably like 1,000 people, maybe not even. But
Okay.
the green room is upstairs and it's like multi-level, and it has like, dude, it's
That sounds
crazy.
amazing. Yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah. First concert that you went to, and then the first concert that you paid for.
Man. So I would say first concert that, like, first headliner build concert, or like festival?
I don't know, just the first
Because
like.
I went to, so I went to Warped Tour
Okay.
in San Antonio, and also Blink 182 at the Woodlands Pavilion in the same summer. Blink
Okay.
182 would be like the first like big headliner type
Right.
concert. Warped Tour is like you see like 50
Yeah.
bands.
Yeah, it's huge, right?
First concert that I paid for. Oh man.
That's hard because you were already playing by relatively young
Yeah,
age.
but there was definitely maybe a band called Dredge
Okay.
at Emos in Austin. Either
Okay.
them or like Coheed and Cambria. I don't know if y'all know
Yeah.
either one of those bands.
Yeah,
It was
I know
like that
Coheed,
same sort of like prog emo era of stuff.
All right. Couple more, and then I'll hand you off for the important question of the evening. I know you all have played some amazing venues over the last year and a half, probably even before that. But is there a venue that you would like to play that you haven't played yet?
The Gorge
Yeah,
in Washington.
that's a popular answer.
It's like because I've been fortunate enough to do quite a few bucket list venues. We got to play Albert Hall earlier this year. We've done Red
That's
Rocks.
insane.
We've done like a lot of cool stuff, and like the Gorge is like one of the ones that haven't checked off the list yet.
You might not get Bennett back for a while.
Yeah.
He's going to hit every
Yeah.
trail around there, right? All right, so last question that I have is tribute bands, yay or nay?
Man, if they're done well and the guys are stoked about what they're doing on stage, I'm for it.
Cool. All right.
I'll go watch one. If it's a band I want to see, I'll go watch it.
Nice. All right. Soul Gravy, you are up for the
If there's a
important
good
question.
Van Halen tribute band
I
around.
guess. Well, they're not
Yeah.
around, so yeah. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay, so Desert Island question. I was just gonna check back and see
10
if you
minutes
had
later?
a different answer. Yeah. No. So the last question of the evening started out as a joke, and now it is a requirement that we ask this. So, Dustin, what is your favorite Little Debbie snack?
Oh, dang. I don't know what you call them, but they're the little like chocolate peanut butter like wafer cookies.
The Nutty
Those-
Buddies, the
Are
two
those
in a
nutty?
pack.
Yeah, those.
Yeah.
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 Nutty
Yeah.
Buddies for the win. We haven't had a ton of Nutty Buddies, so that's
No,
good.
Dude, I'm
Yeah.
a chocolate peanut butter. Like, I could eat 1,000 Reese's peanut butter cups in one sitting, no question.
Well,
Oh,
it's about to be your time of the year to shine, or it is your time of the year to
it
shine.
is, right?
Not about to be. We're here. Dang it.
we have arrived.
In my household, we've been here for a while. So,
Just a reminder, I know y'all that follow the channel and watch, obviously we appreciate that. But make sure you go follow Dustin wherever he streams music. He's got new music coming out, which we didn't really spend a ton of time talking about. Do you want to talk about the new stuff that's
I
coming
would
out?
love to.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a new song called Azalea Drive coming out on the December the 12th, which is 1 week from tomorrow. I wrote it with my good pal Jonathan Terrell, who is a Lockhart dude. Super stoked with it. It's kind of a moody, driving, like it's more singer songwritery than what I normally write. I normally write kind of like bigger kind of pop rock jams, and this one's more it's more Americana. And it's number 3. It's the 3rd installment of an ongoing project where I am playing all the instruments on the song, and I'm hopefully gonna just do an album over the course of, when I started this project, I told myself it was going to be out in early 2024, and we'll see how that's gone. So maybe 2025, who knows? It'll get done when it gets done in due time. But that's part of the reason I've also invested a bunch of money in this recording equipment so I can do it at home. And so, yeah, installment number 3, Azalea Drive, out on hopefully, I think, all the stuff, December 12th.
Awesome. And can we look forward to maybe some more live shows at least in Texas?
Yeah, that night I'm playing at the Saxon Pub in Austin. Kind of
Awesome.
a unofficial. I booked the show before I had planned on releasing the song. I knew I was going to release the song sometime before the end of the year, but I kind of got all my ducks in a row, and just so happened that is single release night. So Saxon Pub, December 12th, Austin, Texas.
Yep.
And then I'm done for the year. I'm going on vacation, going to Costa Rica, see my buddy Kenny. We're going to go surf, be on the beach.
Sounds like fun.
Pick it back up in January.
Sounds like a happy holidays for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Dustin, we appreciate the time. Like Talbot said, make sure you go follow Dustin on all of his socials. When he asks you to pre-save something, whenever he announces that it's out, go and follow his page wherever you stream your music. And if he asks you to pre-save something on his socials, go and do so. It just helps everybody with the algorithms and helps everybody that's involved. So, Dustin, really appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thank y'all for having me. This was fun.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, cheers.